Rosie, and welcome back to my channel. I never thought I'd make homemade croissants. Making a slab of butter and laminating the dough to get those perfect 27, 81, 324 layers looked way too complicated for me. I always felt like croissant recipes were like instructions on how to fly a plane, and the strict rise schedule over several days made the whole process impractical for me. So I figured out how to make delicious croissants with minimal effort and no lamination. No, these aren't perfect, authentic French croissants, but hey, the hands-on prep only takes 10 minutes and these are so flaky, buttery, and just melt in your mouth. I'll also tell you how to freeze them so you can have fresh croissants anytime. I have to warn you though, I'll be breaking some strongly held rules of croissant making, so if you are a pastry chef or a professional baker, you might want to avert your eyes and plug your ears. Now that you've been warned, let's get started. I'm going to mix together all the dry ingredients first. I have 400 grams of bread flour. Bread flour is the only white flour I keep on hand, so feel free to use all-purpose flour if you have that instead. I add 1.5 teaspoons of Himalayan pink salt, 3 tablespoons of white sugar, and 1 teaspoon of active dry yeast. And then I shave a block of cold, unsalted butter into the flour with a vegetable peeler. This is how I get all those layers without traditional lamination. Make the slices as thin as you can and coat them with flour as you go along. This process works best if you have time to freeze your butter ahead of time for a few hours or a few days. You can use a butter knife instead of a vegetable peeler, but it's easier to get the thinner slices with the peeler. If you want to see the vegan version of these croissants, I'll link that video in the description box below. Then I add in a half cup of cold water and a half cup of cold milk that I've mixed together in this measuring cup. If you're using dairy milk, I recommend using whole milk for the best flavor. If you're using non-dairy milk, I recommend unsweetened soy milk. I'm just going to mix until there's no dry flour left, and then I'm going to let the dough rest in the fridge for at least 1 hour. The timing doesn't have to be exact. I'm going to roughly shape the block into a rectangle and then divide it in half because it's easier for me to work with. I roll out each half and do 4 sets of trifolds. I use a generous amount of flour on the cutting board to ensure that the dough does not stick. Cover each half with plastic wrap and leave it in the fridge for about 24 hours. I divide each half of the dough in half again, so I'll be working with a quarter of the dough at a time. Put the other half in the fridge while you're working on this portion. Roll it out into a rectangle and cut it into 2 triangles for large croissants. At this point, you can either let these proof at room temperature for 4 to 5 hours until they're double in volume if you want to bake them later the same day. Or you could freeze these on the tray uncovered for at least 1 hour and transfer them to a plastic bag so you can have croissants anytime. If you want to make chocolate croissants, roll out a quart of the dough as before, but cut the dough into 2 long rectangles. The best part of making your own chocolate croissants is that you can add as much chocolate as you want. From stores or bakeries, you usually get only 2 rows of chocolate, but I'm going to add extra, just because I can. When you want to prepare the frozen croissants, just place them on a baking sheet lined with parchment a few inches apart. Let them defrost and rise overnight uncovered for 8 to 10 hours, and they'll be ready to bake by the next morning. This is actually my preferred method because it's so nice to have fresh baked croissants first thing in the morning. Just before baking, brush the croissants with egg yolk. I'm using just the egg yolk to get that rich dark brown color. Keep the egg wash away from the cut edges of the dough so that the egg doesn't bind the sides as it's baking. See how easy it can be to make homemade croissants? These are absolutely delicious, and I hope you give this recipe a try. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more easy cooking and baking videos, and say hi in the comments. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye!